Hey there everyone! Today we're diving into an important topic, uncovering workplace bias. Let's break down the top 10 types of unconscious bias, how they impact our work and what we can do to mitigate them. And first up, affinity bias. This is when we favor people who are similar to us in some way. Perhaps they attended the same school or share similar hobbies. This can lead to cliques forming and exclusion of others. Studies show that 60% of employees feel excluded at work due to affinity bias. To counter this, try to identify commonalities with a broader range of colleagues and encourage diversity in team settings. Next, confirmation bias. We tend to seek out information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs. For example, if you believe that a certain team member is lazy, you might only notice when they're slacking off. Research indicates that 70% of people exhibit confirmation bias in decision-making. Mitigate this by seeking out diverse perspectives and challenging your assumptions. Gender bias is another significant one. This happens when assumptions are made about someone based on their gender. Studies show that 42% of women experience gender bias at work. For instance, assuming women are more suited for administrative roles. Awareness and equitable policies can help counteract this. Then we have halo and horn effect. The halo effect is when one positive attribute overshadows other traits, while the horn effect is the opposite. Around 58% of managers admit to being influenced by the halo and horn effect during evaluations. For example, a charismatic speaker might be seen as a better leader, regardless of actual performance. Use structured criteria for evaluations to avoid this pitfall. Stereotype bias involves making oversimplified assumptions about a group. For example, thinking that older employees can't adapt to new technologies. Research shows that 64% of older employees face stereotype bias. Encourage an environment of continuous learning to break down these barriers. Ageism is another common bias, where judgment is based on someone's age. Both younger and older employees can be unfairly judged. Studies indicate that 50% of employees have witnessed ageism in the workplace. Promote a culture that values contributions from all age groups. Attribution bias is when we attribute someone's behavior to their character rather than their situation. If a colleague is late, you might think they're lazy rather than considering they had a tough commute. Research shows that 55% of employees have experienced attribution bias. Be mindful of external factors affecting performance. Ethnicity bias involves assumptions based on someone's ethnic background. This can affect hiring decisions and workplace interactions. Studies show that 45% of employees have experienced ethnicity bias. Implement diversity training and ensure representation across all levels. Contrast bias is when we compare each other rather than against set standards. For instance, a mediocre employee might seem exceptional if compared to a poor performer. Research indicates that 65% of performance reviews are influenced by contrast bias. Use standardized evaluation criteria to avoid. Lastly, we have name bias. Judging someone based on their name, which might signal their ethnic background or gender. Studies show that 33% of hiring managers admit to name bias. Use blind recruitment processes to mitigate. Remember, awareness is the first step in combating these biases. Regular training, diverse teams, and structured processes can help foster a more inclusive workplace. Thanks for tuning in, and let's work together to make our workplaces more equitable.